The town of Plainville. Established in 1721 at the geographical center of Connecticut.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our town council meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, February 18th, 2020, 7 p.m. Please stand for the pledge. I'll ask Councilman Wazorko to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll continue on with the agenda. We do not have a presentation or a public hearing this evening, so I will ask for approval of the minutes of our previous meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion to approve the minutes of February 3rd, 2020 regular meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
in Section 10, new business, under tax refunds, it has me as seconding the motion. I was not at that meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for that.
Madam
Now-
Chair,
Yes?
I'd like to make a few additions. So I'd like to make a motion to move tax, under new business, move tax refunds to number 4 and add facilities study committee as number 3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any additions to the motion? Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to add under executive session a personnel matter fire marshal position.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Took care of that. All right, moving on to announcements and reports. Does anybody have any announcements or reports to make this evening?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes. The three groups to which I am the liaison all met last week. On Tuesday night, it was library trustees, and I'll just give a few quick highlights from each meeting. Went over the budget and statistical updates. There have been some circulation increases recently at the library. It's a good thing. And also, our police chief, Catania, was at the meeting and did a safety review along with the library director, Trish Tomlinson, making the trustees aware of what's currently done in terms of safety and some things they might be looking to do in the future. And really, both of them stressed really the very positive, collaborative working relationship that the library and the police have, and find that's a very good thing and something they didn't necessarily see in other communities. So that was, I think, a very informative part of that meeting. The Conservation Commission met Wednesday night. They're making plans for Earth Day 2020 and Trails Day, and river cleanup tentatively scheduled for May 16th on Quinnipiac River. And Committee on Aging on Thursday, and 45th anniversary plans. They're planning to do something special each month. And as usual at the Senior Center, there's many things happening, programs going strong, services going strong. The income tax assistance was booked totally within a few days, and increased use of the different transportation options as well. And that's it from those three groups.
Oh, you've had a busy week. Thank you so much for that. Does anybody else have anything to add for announcements and reports? Okay, thank you. Moving on to appointments and resignations. We have a few of those, so I'll ask for item number 1.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
motion to appoint David King as regular member of the Aviation Commission.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Number 2,
Madam Chair,
yes.
motion to accept with regret the resignation of Joshua Baxic, Joel Rosado, and Martin Schiraldi from the Plainville Fire Department.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Do we
Madam-
have any other appointments or reappointments tonight?
Madam
that are
Chair?
not listed?
Yep. Three reappointments to Recycling and Solid Waste Commission: George Fensick, Rebecca Ireland, and Kathleen Cole.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion passes. Are there any other appointments to be made tonight that we don't have on our list? Okay, thank you for that. Board of Education liaison, do we have a report from the Board of Education tonight? Okay. Report of the Town Attorney, Attorney Mastriani, hello. Okay, thank you for being here. All right, Robert, report of the Town Manager.
Thank you. The first item I have is personal property audits. The fiscal year 20 budget included $10,000, a line item to audit 10 businesses in Plainville. There are approximately 79 manufacturing businesses in Plainville. Anne Marie Herring, the town assessor, who's been with the town about 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years. Is here this evening to give a summary of the results of the recently completed personal property audits. And with your permission, I'd like to ask her to step forward, which I think she's anticipating you're going to say yes, and give her summary.
Hi.
Hi, Anne Marie.
Good evening.
Thank
Welcome.
you for giving me this time. I appreciate it. I think Robert is going to make my slides go through for me.
We'll try.
As you know, last year I came to you and asked you for money to do personal property audits, and you very graciously granted that in the budget.
Anne Marie, yeah, if you can put that mic.
Better? Okay, thank you. So we did audits. We did 10 audits. I did audits on manufacturing companies. And the reason I audited manufacturing companies is because the state of Connecticut used to audit them, but when they stopped in 2009, it became the responsibility of the municipalities to audit them. So we have about 79 of them. I extracted all their information from the computer. I had Excel assign a random number to each account, and then I had Excel sort those random numbers, and I just picked the top 10. So there was no discrimination, bias. I had no idea who Excel was going to pick. Their number came up, which is what I just said. It was like the draft. Your number just came up. So we did that. We did 10 of them. Anyone can be audited at all, any company. We have 1,100 companies in the town of Plainville, but I did decide to do the manufacturers first for the very reason that the state no longer does them. So we did that. You're ahead of me, Robert. I must be talking too much.
We got 79 right there. Want to go back?
No, you're good, thank you. So once the companies were selected, they were sent a letter from me, registered letter informing them that they were being audited, which outlined all the documents that they needed to provide to the auditors for the audit process. The auditors were sent 3 years, 16, 17, 18 of their personal property declarations, along with the property field card. The company also set up an appointment with them to do an interior inspection. So once all of the documents were received, the interior inspections were done, the audit company went through and created a spreadsheet of all of the assets of those companies. I'm going to show you what that spreadsheet looks like in a few minutes. So the audit results were compiled based on everything, and all of that information, after done, was sent to me. I then review all of the audit results. Nothing goes out from the audit company unless I review it first, and I am completely satisfied with what they provided to me. So we mail to the company, and I have just a couple. I didn't make copies of all this, but we mail to the company it looks like this. It tells them what their audit results are, and it gives them a sheet for every single year that outlines what they reported and what the audit company found. Along with that information, the letter states to them that they have every right to come, and we encourage them to do so, make an appointment to meet with me and the auditors to go over the audit results. That's something that's not usually done in the audit process, but it's something that I feel is very, very important, so it's something I require of them. I want the company to be able to come in, sit across, go over all of these results, answer any questions they may have. We can ask questions of them before it's finalized and before they receive a bill. So they actually have 3 opportunities to supply data. 1, all the data that's required. 2, if there's any questions the auditors have of them, the auditors email them with those questions, and they're given an opportunity to provide additional information. 3, when they come and meet with us informally, they could present anything they'd like because they've already received the results, present any additional information they would like, ask us any questions, and then we give them another timeline to provide any additional information should they then realize that they have not come prepared. After all that, well, I skipped a step and I apologize for that. The audit company creates a spreadsheet. The audit, once they receive the audit results, either the companies contact me or I contact them and I email them the spreadsheet that has all of the findings of the audit. I email it to them because if you print it, it looks like this. So, because it's in Excel, it enables them to add all the numbers that we have. It allows them to sort it. It gives them a listing of every single item that they found at the business. It outlines what was moved from one category to another. It outlines what was added based on inspection. Every single number that they've received in this ties to this. So it's very, very thorough, and they have multitude of opportunities to give us any information they may have. So we meet with them. We go over anything they bring to us. We will then revise the audit results based on any additional documentation that they may have. I'm probably talking too fast. I'm not sure where we are. But we do all of that, and after that's all done, they received a second copy of their audit results, and then the tax collector's office issues them a bill. All of the documents we send outline the appeal process that they can file. The informal is something we add, but there are definitely much more formal appeals. They could appeal to the Board of Assessment Appeals, and if not, still not satisfied, can then appeal to Superior Court. So, let's see where. I'm talking way too fast. I'm sorry, I'm pages behind my own paperwork. So, after we're all done with the 10 audits, we sent out tax bills totaling $240,000, $240,466.27 to be exact. They were mailed out on January 7th, and they were due January 31st because new interest kicks in the first of every single month. As of today, we have received $194,461.78. 8 of the 10 companies have paid their bills in full. One company has filed an appeal with the Board of Assessment Appeals. They still do have a couple of days, but as of right now, only one has done that. So I believe the last page gives you the total of the assessment increase, which was $4 million, the penalties, which were 1, and it outlines the total tax, interest, and total amount billed. So you'll see that after you subtract the fees for the auditors, it was an additional taxes of $230,000 were collected through these audits. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know I spoke very quickly here, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anybody have some questions?
Yeah, I do. Madam Chair, thank you. Clearly, it's something, the money we spent, clearly, we're getting, our money's worth, so to speak. A couple questions. How often would the state do these audits? Is there any numbers, were they pretty good about auditing? Were they behind?
No, they audited every single year.
Really?
Yep, everything that, because I had to file, any assessor has to file with the state, what we call an M65 exemption form, which, because the state used to reimburse us for this. So we filed that every single year. They would go over everything, not the entire company, just the manufacturing exemption, but they would review that every year, audit it every year, and then determine what they were going to reimburse, the lost tax they were going to reimburse. So it was done every year by the state.
Now, I imagine, is this something you'd like to continue to do?
With your permission, yes. It certainly, I believe you'll always see a return. And if you recall, when I presented this at budget time, I told you I don't believe that it's because people are intentionally trying to cheat the system. I haven't seen that. It has never been my experience. It really has more to do with the fact that there are items they put on the exemption form that don't qualify. It's a state statute. You know, you have to meet certain criteria for it to be eligible. There's items that could get miscategorized in different ways. Just a simple example would be you'll find that banks put their ATMs under data processing because it's quite an accelerated depreciation, but ATMs don't qualify under that. So it's really not that they're doing something to try to purposely do something. They're not as familiar with the laws and what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. The state of Connecticut says any item used in the course of business has to be declared to the assessor of the local municipality. You'll see a lot of times where items will be fully depreciated, and so they're dropping off asset listings, they're dropping off in reports that go to accountants, but the state of Connecticut never drops it off. It goes down to 30% and stays there. So it really is, and it's no one likes to be audited, but I have found that they're happy to almost start over. It's as if we're taking all of their assets and we're categorizing and we're listing them all out, and they could take this spreadsheet now and every single year use it to take off what they disposed of, to add anything new. So it really gives them a good starting point for the future to know how to properly categorize their items.
Kind of get a full picture of exactly where they are.
Absolutely, and we do that for them. You know, we are very, very open with all of the information that we gather. If I don't hear from a company, I contact them and send them this spreadsheet because I want them to see and be satisfied that when I send these numbers out, they could trace these numbers
You get
back.
exactly where you came up with them.
Yes.
And just one more quick question. Is there a limit to how often we can audit a particular business, or is there any restrictions on how many we can do, if that makes sense?
There are no restrictions. You can do as many as you would like.
Okay.
They are very time-consuming, even on my part, even though I'm hiring a company. Because I put my name at the bottom of the letter, nothing goes out unless I review it, and I'm
And you
satisfied.
think, for example, 10 this year was an appropriate number to handle?
I think it was a good number to start with, absolutely. The statute says you can go back 3 years,
Okay.
you know, so a lot of times, if you haven't done audits in a very long time, you only go back the 3 years, but you could have had things going on the years prior to that. But, I mean, that's just the way it is. You have to accept the fact that anything that was done miscategorized prior to that, there's no recovery from that. So we do the 3 years because that's what the statute allows. I think it's a good practice to have a nice rotation going because I don't need to now go back 3 years from now and do these companies. I've actually set them up for the future. So it would really be nice to set a plan in place, and you don't need to audit everyone. We have 1,100 of them.
Right.
There are some that you really don't want to audit. You know, there's not going to be a return for them. They're very, very small, tiny businesses. But to have a nice rotation going so that even though it's not every 3 years you're auditing the same company, that you're really going through your major companies over the course of whatever time period and whatever dollar amount the town is comfortable in spending.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm all set.
All set? Okay.
Yes, thank
Anybody
you.
else?
Madam Chair?
Sure.
Yes. Well, first, thank you very much for your report tonight and for bringing this up last year. And I was looking at some of my handwritten notes when the budget review session, when we discussed this, and we actually got a greater return than even anticipated. So it ended up well. But thank you, because I know it wasn't only the $10,000, it was effort and time, too, on the part of your office and you. So thank you for that. Just a quick question. As we go through the future, would you sort of finish concentrating on the manufacturing before looking at other types of businesses?
Well, I would. If you asked me my personal, yes, I would. I would start there, only because you have to start somewhere and you have to identify. You don't have to, though. There is no rule or regulation that says you absolutely must audit manufacturers first. You can audit any company you'd like. So if there was any company, or if you decided I'd only like you to audit whatever criteria you picked, that's what we would do. I picked the manufacturers because they always were audited, and it really is important to keep them auditing them. Again, you'll find a lot of things that is listed on the manufacturing exemption that just don't meet the criteria. They're critical to the production of that particular business, but the criteria for the exemption is very clear. So that would be my recommendation, but certainly if the council felt they'd like to go in a different direction and audit different companies, we would do whatever it is that you thought was best. I never realized I spoke so fast. I'm sorry.
Does anybody else have any questions for Anne Marie?
Madam Chair.
Sure.
So the companies, they had an option to come back and meet with you after the audit. How many of those companies elected to come sit down and, talk about it?
Every one of them.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks.
If I didn't hear from a company, I would call them. I mean, this is an opportunity. Once the bill is sent, they're going to be responsible for it. Even if they come back and appeal, they're responsible. Otherwise, it accrues additional interest. I mean, certainly if their appeal was found that they were deserving of money back, it would be returned to them. But prior to sending the bill, I feel it's really important to sit down with them and really go over that and give them an opportunity. A lot of times, not a lot of times, but you'll find a few times the auditors will contact them and ask them for information. It's not always sent, but they show up at the informal hearing with all that information because now they've gotten the results of the audit. So a lot of times it's just a case of, now I've seen the numbers, now I see where they're coming from. Let me go through the trouble of digging out that paperwork so I could show them that maybe some of these numbers should be different. I honestly, it's the only company I've ever worked with that does this, and now I will not ever not do it this way. I just think it's so fair to them to give them that opportunity.
Anybody else have anything? I have two quick questions, Anne Marie, and I again thank you for being, on top of this and coming to us with it, because it certainly makes a difference in all that we have to do to prepare financial outlooks for the town. 2009 was the last time the state did the audits, correct?
That's correct.
And so should we assume that from 2009 forward, those companies, how did they know what to report? Did they just continue to report it from what they had in their 2009 return? Or, because some of the, looking at some of the information the town manager sent us, there's some substantial shifts in some of that information. So how did they determine what they owed for their personal property?
Well, every year they have to file a declaration with us, and part of that declaration is you have to annually apply for that exemption. So they would list those items on there, and I obviously took all the descriptions off of this because it's confidential.
Sure.
But I find that as I go through them every single year, I may not have any idea what this piece of machinery does. So I spend time Googling them. If I can't find anything, I'll go down, I'll call them up and make an appointment. But if that's not done consistently, items stay on there that perhaps shouldn't, that are granted the exemption. So they just keep going and filing every single year without knowing that perhaps that this item shouldn't be on there because nobody's audited them and told them that.
Okay. Okay. That makes some sense for me. And the second part of my question is, so this $230,467, is this reflected in our grand list report that you just released in the end of January?
That's a yes and a no. No is really the answer. It is not. This is back to 16, 17, and 18. So these are on the 16, 17, and 18 additional taxes that were collected on those grand list years. The yes part is that I have this spreadsheet now on all of these 10 companies. So when they filed this year, there was an increase in their assessments this year based on the fact that they now know that this list of machines no longer are eligible, or I didn't put this on here and I should have been. So yes, there is an increase in personal property this year in the grand list, and some of that is a result of the audit, but none of the $230,000 is.
Okay.
I know that probably sounds...
Well, so it comes to the town as additional revenue, but once they pay it, it comes in as a revenue to us for this moment in time.
Correct.
And then when the grand list for this year, which will be published next January, these things will be in there. It will be part of that whole.
The 2019 grand list that I just finished in January
Right?
has in it additional assessments for these 10 companies based on the fact that I audited them. But that's only for this year. That has nothing to do with the 3 years. None of the income from the 3 years
Okay.
but there is definitely a carryover because, like I said, now they have this.
Right.
And from every year forward, they're going to file their declarations based on the results of this. They're going to add and subtract. Now, there were a couple of companies that had on their asset list some assets that they weren't using any longer, but they never got rid of them. So as a result of the audit, they now had gotten rid of them. So a couple of those things came off, but it's still based on what did they have in place October 1 of 19.
Okay. I was curious where this all fits in with, the grand list you just published, and is it part of it, or is it not included in that? And I understand part of it is in there, but not all of it.
The audit was the basis for setting the 19 grand list. So they got billed for 16, 17, and 18. They won't get billed for 19 until July 1st of next year. So the information on the 18 is used as a base for the 19 for going forward. So there wasn't, we are going to see an increase, and we did see an increase in personal property, not to the degree of this, because this is over a 3-year period of time, but it's more accurate now, at least for those 10 entities.
Okay. Now I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I'm all set, and I ask if there's anything else anybody may have come up with. You want to ask Anne Marie? I'm sure if you come up with other questions, you'd be happy to
Absolutely.
down the road help us out.
Give me a call, or I'm happy to come back.
Great.
I will give you a heads up and tell you I have put $10,000 in my budget for this year. I'm not sure if I'm telling tales here that I'm not supposed to tell, but,
I'm sure it's not a surprise.
and because it is a random selection,
Sure.
it's difficult. It can fluctuate year to year, because I'm not picking companies. I'm not looking at them saying, maybe there's something wrong here. But I can pick companies any way you would direct me to do so. I just don't want anyone to sit back and think that I have selected them for any other reason other than the computer really selected them.
I think a random pick of the total accounts is certainly fair enough, and ultimately, everybody's going to get a turn, I would say.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of when, right?
It's just a matter of when. It's
Okay.
when your number came up.
That works for me.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you for coming this evening and explaining.
Next item I have is the Wheeler Elementary School open house ribbon cutting. An open house and ribbon cutting ceremony has been scheduled for the newly renovated Frank T. Wheeler Elementary School. This will be held on Wednesday, March 4th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m., and the public is invited to tour the building at this time. A ribbon cutting ceremony and remarks by several invited guests will take place at 6:30 p.m. in the Wheeler Gymnasium, and light refreshments will be served in the cafeteria. Several years ago, town residents approved a $23.5 million appropriation to renovate the school. The project was completed ahead of schedule and is anticipated to come in under the budgeted amount. The project is essentially complete except for some outdoor punch list items that will be completed in the spring. And again, residents are encouraged to attend the open house, and I do want to express appreciation to the Capital Projects Building Committee that generally meets, scheduled to meet twice a month. They have been meeting regularly, bird dogging this project and making decisions as we go along, and I think they've done a fine job and will continue to do so with their projects. So wanted to at least give them some recognition. They work in they work in anonymity most of the time, but they're the ones who are responsible for overseeing this project and bringing it to fruition.
Great.
Next item I have is the Town Council March meeting schedule. On March 2nd, the Town Council will be receiving the fiscal year 21 town budget recommendation. Both myself and the Superintendent of Schools, Steve LePage, will give a brief summary of both the town and school budgets. On Thursday, March 5th, there will be a public hearing beginning at 7 p.m. where residents can comment on the proposed budget as recommended by the town manager and the Board of Education. The Town Council will then conduct work sessions on the proposed budget beginning the week of March 9th. Town staff has provided the Town Council with possible dates for the work session for your consideration this evening. It is proposed that the work sessions begin at 6:30, that they also be televised by Nutmeg TV. The work sessions are open to the public as well, and there is an item under new business that would set the date and time of the work sessions. I don't know if you want to discuss that on the new business, or, we suggested, basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, beginning of the 9th, so the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. And then the following Tuesday, because Monday is a council meeting on the 16th, so I think it's the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and those are all if necessary. Council has generally scheduled 7 work sessions. I don't think you've used 7 meetings to get through the budget, but, you never know. So we would recommend you schedule, perhaps up to 7 nights if that works for the council members. Next item I have is the airport lease extension. The Robertson Airport lease with Interstate Aviation is scheduled to expire on August 31st of this year, 2020. The lease provides for a 5-year extension. Over the last several months, the Aviation Commission has been negotiating with Interstate for a lease extension. At their meeting held on January 27th, the Aviation Commission unanimously voted on the specific terms for the extension. These terms include the monthly lease payment, revenue sharing, lessee capital improvements, and lessor capital improvements. The proposed lease would result in the airport continuing to be self-sufficient, requiring no taxpayer support. The next step is for the town attorney to draft the lease extension based on the terms approved by the Aviation Commission, and we have transmitted that to Mike Mastriani, the town attorney. No action by the town council is required at this time. It is expected that the commission will formally present their recommendation once the extension has been drafted and is ready for signature. And I do want to thank the Aviation Commission for their volunteer efforts and expertise in overseeing the operations of Robertson Airport. This is just for informational purposes. I know that Councilman Underwood has jumped in with both feet in participation at the Aviation Commission meetings, and I don't know if you would like to say anything at this point in time or hold your remarks till later, I'll give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I would invite the public to attend some of those meetings. They're real exciting, really.
Well, I think he's being a little facetious, but perhaps not. The next item I have is the Facility Study Committee. In January of 1996, the Town Council established a Facility Study Committee. And then in June of 2005, the Town Council established the Capital Projects Building Committee. Both committees have similar charges and responsibilities. Town staff is recommending that the Town Council formally disband the Facility Study Committee, and we provided you with the information about the charges for both, and I think you could see the similarities. There is an item under new business regarding this recommendation, and the reason is we'd just like to get it off the books. We don't feel that we should just eliminate it ourselves. We feel that it should take some formal Town Council action. So it's the reason why it's on tonight's agenda. I think I thank Town Clerk Carol Scoltetti for bringing this forward, so perhaps we can clean that up. You feel it's necessary. The next item I have is the financial dashboard, which was included in the meeting package information for this evening, and it has been posted on the town website. We go through it briefly. Pretty much everything is in line with what we've discussed in the past dashboard, so nothing materially significant has happened in the last month. This is through January 31st. Town budget expenditures pretty much in line with what was anticipated. As far as budgeting is concerned, both the general government budget and the Board of Education budget. Police overtime, continues to run relatively high. What's a little unique about this one is that we've spent $421,000 of the $550,000 budget. It's $60,000 higher than the two-year average, and if you look at the percent spent, we've only spent 76%, and the two-year average is 80%. And the reason for that is because last year you did increase the budget for the police overtime, so your percentage is less, but your dollars are certainly running a little bit higher than the two-year average. Roadways overtime is for overtime that's non-snow related. Buildings and grounds overtime, same way. Roadway snow overtime is running a little bit over the two-year average, although that was mostly at the beginning of the the season. Where we are saving some money is on the contractors that we hire to take care of on larger storms. So buildings and grounds is running a little bit higher than they have in the past. They've had a little bit more aggressive response as it relates to schools. Buildings and grounds, take care of the snow plowing and take care of the sidewalks at the schools, and then working with the superintendents to try to avoid canceling school. They're getting out a little bit earlier so that they they might have a 2-hour delay instead of having to cancel in certain instances, which happened at the beginning of the year. So that's why you see that a little bit higher. On the hauler tonnages, we're running a little bit higher on our estimated tonnages. In the past, we're throwing out more trash now than we have in the past, so we're running a little bit over as far as that's concerned. And you can see on the recycling tonnages, we've already spent our budget. We've spent over our budget. We've been discussing that for several months as far as what the, we didn't know what the costs were going to be when we made the budget last year, and it's one of the things that's going to be driving next year's budget as well. So, as far as the revenues are concerned, we've collected, almost 2% higher than our two-year average, 84.45% of all our revenues. We expect to collect another $9.6 million before the end of the year. Some of that has to do with, a good portion of that has to do with state revenues, ECS. We get our larger ECS reimbursement, I believe, in March or April. So that's probably about half that amount, half of that $9.6 million. Current taxes, we're running at 94.5%, which is higher than our two-year average. So current taxes are being paid a little bit quicker than in past years as well. Our fund balance hasn't changed from the last month. Special funds are pretty much running in line as well as previous months. I did the dashboard this month. I used to do it a while ago, then Scott Colby did it for a while, so I came back into it. It's always good to get refreshed on some of these things. On Robertson Airport, we were mixing and matching in past reports, not only operations budget, but some of the grants that we were dealing with the FAA with some of their improvements. So I tried to isolate just the operating budget, not the larger projects. So that's why you don't see a 2-year average in here. But our Robertson Airport fund balance is still is at $440,000 on the operations side. We don't expect too much more as far as expenditures going forward, so that should increase probably by another $50,000, $60,000 before we get to the end of the fiscal year. Everything else is pretty much in line with at least past reports. On the major projects, we have last year's road, the first phase of the road bond. We still have a balance of $644,000, which we will be applying towards next year. We discussed that previously when we gave out the list for next year. The phosphorus removal project, again, the reason why the expenditures to date look pretty close to the budgeted amount is because the finance department reports encumbrances, and they've encumbered, contingency funds that aren't going to be spent. So that's why you see the net when you see the totals on the bottom. The budget is $15.7 million, and we've spent $4.5 million. We still expect this project to come in under budget as well. It's pretty much complete. They're winding down their expenditures as well. And you see the Wheeler School project numbers. So that's all I have on the financial report. Certainly can answer any questions you might have for me, I think, if you do have any. If not, we'll move on to happenings.
All right. Long time no do this. Welcome back.
We're going to let Shirley try this. So.
Let me see if
If it doesn't work,
I remember.
I'll take over.
Oh, maybe it won't. So this evening we have an important message from the Plainville Coalition for Positive Youth Development. As you are probably well aware, the Surgeon General has declared vaping an epidemic amongst youth. It's critical for parents to talk to their children about the dangers of e-cigarettes. With that, we're going to show a short video produced by the students and staff at the Plainville High School.
We're going to try. Here we go.
Elementary school. When I had a conversation with him, he said, "Dad, it's just flavored water. We know that the number one reason you say they're using these products is because of the flavors." I had to explain to him it's not just flavored water. It contains nicotine. It can contain other harmful substances. It can contain marijuana or other illicit substances. Everyone needs to be against youth access to these products because it is uniquely harmful to young people.
Vapes are devices designed to help people who are addicted to smoking end their addiction. Similar to electronic cigarettes, vapes use a liquid that is heated into a vapor and is smoked by the user. This vapor contains nicotine, which is highly addictive and known for its use in cigarettes. While vapes were designed to help with addiction, they have grown in popularity among teens. In the past year, vaping increased among middle school students by 48%, and among high school students, the percent was much larger at a staggering 78%.
One of the things we see from the news stories coming out is that these companies have been specifically targeting young kids, investing money in young kids, knowing that they can get them addicted to something that is going to be a lifelong income flow for them.
The vapor used in vapes contains harmful substances, volatile organic compounds, ultrafine particles, heavy metals, diacetyl, and cancer-causing chemicals which are linked to serious lung disease. The vast majority of e-cigarettes contain nicotine, the addictive drug in cigarettes, cigars, and other tobacco products. Currently, 90% of vape brands, such as Juul, have high levels of nicotine that can cause permanent damage to the user's lungs. Is lung cancer. Vapes and cigarettes have many similarities and should be treated with the same severity.
So one critical step in our state, Washington State, we just passed a law to increase the purchase age for tobacco and Juul products to 21. So that is a huge and important step. Theoretically, that will help to get it out of the high schools.
Welcome back. Today, Michigan will become the first state in the nation to ban flavored e-cigarettes and vaping products.
It's so important that we ban this flavored product. They market it like it's a healthy alternative that's glamorous, and in fact, our kids are inhaling nicotine, which is addictive, formaldehyde and other toxic chemicals, and metal particles, and they're ending up in the hospital. It's time for us to take action.
A ban on flavored vapes and e-cigarettes is even being considered on a federal level, with the president announcing so on September 11, 2019. Parents, you may think that this issue does not directly affect you, but you could be wrong. Due to the fact that vape usage increased among middle school students by 48% and among high school students by 78% in the past year alone, it is possible that your child may have used a vape device. This is made even more possible due to the fact that many vapes are made to be inconspicuous. Some of the devices are small enough to fit in a closed fist and have a design that closely resembles a USB flash drive. Another aspect of vaping to be wary of is that the vapor from these devices does not smell like tobacco, and instead smells like the flavoring of the vape pods. The flavors of these pods can be anywhere from mint and cotton candy to bubblegum, cherry, strawberry, root beer, and juicy fruit. There are over 15,500 flavors on the market, and they can be very appealing to children and teens, as 81% of vapers say that they use these devices because of the flavoring.
Sold as something that's, safer or sort of an alternative to smoking, what it actually is a fantastic device for injecting your kid with an addictive pesticide that can set up a lifetime habit of addiction.
Some myths and misconceptions about vaping include:
it's just water vapor with flavoring. The packaging says it's nicotine-free.
This is incorrect. All vapes contain nicotine.
Okay, well, nicotine isn't that bad for me, right? People smoke all the time.
Nicotine is an extremely addictive substance and is known to cause lung cancer as well as other serious side effects and complications.
So, just because I vape doesn't mean I'm going to smoke.
In a study by Boston University, it was found that kids who started out trying e-cigarettes were roughly 4 times more likely to go on to try cigarettes, and nearly 3 times more likely to have used cigarettes in the past 30 days, compared to their classmates who didn't vape or smoke anything.
Hello, I'm Officer Jessica Martins, the School Resource Officer at Plainville High School. Vaping has been an ongoing issue the past year, and has also become a problem in the middle school with our younger community. This vaping epidemic has become a distraction during school because students start vaping in class and in the bathroom. This can also lead to behavioral problems. Not only do we want to keep the kids safe, but it's against the law for anyone under the age of 21 to possess vaping products. As stated in the school policy, we will begin issuing tickets to students who are caught vaping or in possession of vaping products. The tickets will be $50 for the first offense and $100 for the second offense, and so on. Please help us help the students break this addictive habit. Thank you.
Just felt that this message that came from the schools and through our youth services director was important to get the word out, and one of the reasons why we showed it as part of the happenings here this evening. So appreciated your patience in watching this, and hopefully you learned a little bit more about this particular issue.
Next, I have the happenings there at the Senior Center. All About Arthritis is on Thursday, February 20th at 1 p.m. Learn how dietary factors, free radicals, and trauma can cause arthritis, how arthritis is diagnosed, and what you can do to prevent it. Common musculoskeletal changes with aging, Friday, February 28th at 10 a.m. The University of Hartford Physical Therapy doctoral students will give a presentation on common musculoskeletal changes that an adult may face with aging, which can affect their everyday function. Diet and your health. Friday, February 21st at 10 a.m. The Berlin Visiting Nurse Association will be at the Senior Center to explain how to read food labels and what it all means. There will be a free gift for everyone, prizes for game winners, and snacks. On Saturday, February 22nd at 10 a.m., we will walk through wooded and open trails of Chatkowski Conservation Area, Kensington Orchards, and Bicentennial Park in Berlin. The hike will take approximately 2.5 to 3 hours, and you should bring warm clothes, snack, and water, and dress in layers. On Tuesday, February 25th at 11 a.m., there will be a walk or snowshoe through one of 4 Roaring Brook Nature Center trails. The scenic, moderate, intermediate hike will bring you through the woods of the 100-acre protected property, home to a variety of native wildlife, including 150 species of birds. Advanced directives in living wills. Wednesday, March 11th at 2 p.m., Attorney Shirley Pripstein with the Greater Hartford Legal Aid will be doing a presentation. And at this time, Robert has a video on Valentine's at the Senior Center.
Before I get to that, Shirley was talking about the 150 species of birds that you might be able to see on that one walk. Carol Scoltetti pointed out to me that in a tree right outside of the municipal center there was a bald eagle sitting in it today. So I was kind of excited to see that, and maybe he or she is permanently located in that particular area. So keep your eyes open. I wouldn't have seen it otherwise. So thank you, Carol. NBC 30 had a story about some happenings that was occurring down at the Senior Center, and I thought it last less than 2 minutes, so I thought at least, in case you missed it or anybody else, it's a program that's going to be going on at the Senior Center through the end of the month, so it's still timely. See if we can get it to come up.
All right, do you remember the moment you gave and received a Valentine's Day card from a classmate in school? I do.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me, but now my kids do it, right? So it's like doing it all over again. One Plainville woman found a vintage collection of Valentines that she's now displaying in hopes of bringing back fond memories for others.
NBC Connecticut's Jennifer Joas has more on the stories behind the cards. It's new at 6.
Every year, I can't wait to put my Christmas things away because I look forward to February 1st when I can finally get out the box of Valentines.
Joyce Goldberg is thrilled to have the opportunity to share these heartfelt cards. She's organized a display at the Plainville Senior Center with 150 Valentines from 1916 through the 60s. Some hers, others her mom Dorothy received.
This was my mother's first Valentine. She got it in 1916 when she was 1 year old, and that's the oldest. I really treasure that one.
As a child, Joyce says she looked forward to Valentine's Day more than any other holiday, more than Halloween or Christmas. The opportunity to exchange Valentines brought her so much anticipation and joy.
This one just has a little fan, and as the fan goes, her eyes go back and forth.
And although the paper may be aging, her memories aren't fading.
You read it, you look at the name, and you just transcend time.
Joyce is hoping now that they're on display, they'll also help others walking by transcend time.
It brings back a lot of old memories as a child. A lot of smiles. You know, the anticipation of opening the envelopes and seeing what we got, you know, was great. And of course the candy that went with it.
The Valentines will remain on display at Plainville Senior Center through the month of February. In Plainville, Jennifer Joas, NBC Connecticut News.
I believe there was also a report on Channel 8 that was similar to this one, and reviewing the two was a little bit more complete, so I favored that one, if that was okay. Last item I have under happenings. You don't have any more, Shirley, do you?
I do.
You do?
I do.
All right,
I just wanted to remind everybody about Pat Buden's retirement dinner next Wednesday at Nucci's and Larry Sutherland's retirement get-together next Friday at JB Tap. I don't know what they're calling it these days. Rebel Dog. Okay, a Rebel Dog. But so you're all invited.
Last
You
item-
got to pay though.
Gotta get that one in, huh? Okay.
I did.
See Shirley for tickets. Last item I have is we were notified by Eversource that they are going to be receiving at our rail yard. Supposed to be, I think, last week. They moved it to this week, and I think they've actually moved it to next week. But they're bringing in a very large transformer, and they're going to be bringing it down to Southington. And this is just some information about it. Where they're going to go is come out of Neal Court, make a left onto Route 372, go down to Route 10, and then go down Route 10. The plan is to have it. Right now, they're talking about starting on Thursday, February 27th, about 6 p.m. in the evening after rush hour. This large trailer being pulled by a truck is probably going to be moving at about 6 to 10 miles an hour, relatively slow. It's going to be a long trailer. This is the route. Most of it will be done at night. They expect to be done sometime in the morning. It's about 6.5 miles the total trip. And they actually have to, where there's a small bridge in Southington over the Quinnipiac River, they actually have to put a structure in there to help distribute the weight better so that there's no damage to that particular bridge because of the weight of it. So they say the transport will take somewhere between 3 and 4 hours from 6, so maybe they'll be done by midnight. But I would. So if you get behind a slow-moving truck late on Thursday evening, you might want to consider an alternate route. So they will be accompanied by state police. So that, they, just kind of give you a heads up in case you see something like that moving through town. Doesn't happen every day, that's for sure. So that's all we have to report on the happenings. If you have any questions for us, we try to answer them for you.
Okay. Well, thank you for all that information in the videos. They're pretty interesting information for all of us, of course. And thank you, Shirley, for the happenings. Always good to see you back in the helm. You're welcome. Does anybody have any questions for either Robert or Shirley with their presentations tonight? Oh, all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. Moving on to the public comment section of our meeting. During this time, we invite the public to come to either podium. Please state your name and address. You will be given 3 minutes to speak to the council. I have one person that has signed up, and then we'll move on the list from there. So first up is Roberta Loria. Roberta?
Thank you. Roberta Loria, 18 Perrin Road. For the benefit of Carol in this evening's minutes, I oppose any trail or alignment that will be on, next to, or have an impact on any neighborhood in Plainville. Simply put, if there are no rails, there should be no trails. I'm hoping you can help direct me where on the plainvillect.com website I can find the members, the town hall room, the times, dates, agendas, and minutes of our Ethics Commission. I've looked all over the website and I don't see it anywhere. Where's this located so folks can take a look at it?
It's the Ethics Commission that is that what you said, Roberta?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Lee, but I don't know that we have any members actively on that commission, do we?
We do not.
We don't. And I don't remember the last time there were members, that there was a gathering of them. It was several years ago.
Yeah, it was probably 6, 7 years ago. They resigned pretty much because they had no, there wasn't any business for them to, the ordinance was in place, it's supposed to react to, issues that might be brought forward, and, nothing has come forward. So,
Okay.
we don't have an active ethics commission at this time.
I mean, I think it's something worth considering it is in our town charter.
It's not in a charter. I believe it's in an ordinance.
I'm not sure. I'm seeing chapter 29 here, -3, where it says Ethics Commission.
Well, we have solicited people to serve on the ethics commission. People aren't coming out of the woodwork to serve on a commission that doesn't meet because there isn't really much for them to do. But we have solicited people to serve on it, and we continue to do so.
Okay, that would be great if you can keep us in the loop on that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, does anybody else wish to speak to the council that has not done so? Please come to the podium, state your name and address. John?
John Kislik, 65 Forest Hill Avenue. Good evening, Town Council, Robert and
Hello.
Shirley.
Good evening, John.
No more Scott. It's budget time and things are going to get a little testy and pro and con. And I don't think that I ever got up to podium here or at the Board of Ed and actually named a person and what they said, pro or con for the budgets, either one. I never named the person. Well, I've attended the last 2 Board of Ed meetings. The first one, two meetings ago, I gave them suggestions on capital projects to reduce. That went fine. Well, this last one I got up and I asked them to look at their employees and how many employees they have and what they do. And I didn't give them any ideas. I said, look at it. I says, I freed them information this years ago, and you can get a list of every employee from A to Z, their name, what they do, and their salary. So I left that meeting and had a citizen get up. I guess I just have to write it off as naive, gullible, and ill-informed citizen. He named me and criticized my stand on the Board of Ed budget. I think that's wrong. I mean, he could criticize something I said, but you don't have to name the person. So to get away from that, the main reason I asked him to look at the employees, you take the town side. Years ago, we had a public works director, and he retired. The town never replaced him. You had people fill in. You had probably Dominic and Dave take on extra to do something. This is probably what Robert Lee working and you guys working that you say they can do it. I know it takes a lot more on a lot of other people, and it's the same with the tax department. They have lost. You had people come in from Carol's department to fill in tax department and these, to share, to, help everybody out. What the Board of Ed does, the minute one of these high-priced, high salaries goes, within days they replace it. Because in my opinion, they don't want the people to know that Board of Ed can function perfectly without that other person, an extra person. They don't want people to know this. And, education is important. But as far as I'm concerned, education has been perpetrating a fraud against the taxpayers for years and years now. They do not need nowhere near the employees they have in there. And I think one of the things, a lot of people are fighting it, I know our own state rep is, regionalization. I think we're doing it here in the town. The town is sharing a lot of things. And I think it's time for the state of Connecticut to look into regionalization, because we don't need, in 169 towns, 169 superintendents, assistant superintendents, and 3 principals in every high school. So these are just some things I want to bring up to you when you cut their budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak to the council that has not done so? Mr. Edmond?
Joel Edmond,
63 Hollyberry Lane. No rail, no trail, no thank you. Greetings, everyone. Chances are hikers and bikers are not going to buy anything much in Plainville than they already are on the many multiple ways that they can get through town on our well-maintained roads and sidewalks. Due to the fact that the trail gap designers cannot use the short 3.05 miles of unabandoned, wide, well-based, and straightforward railroad bed through Plainville to close one of the many gaps for the completion of the spans from Farmington to Southington, they have devised Alignment C, which in my estimation is crooked as a snake. Crooked as a snake. And as far as the short, straightforward sections, it interferes and negatively impacts wetlands and pretty much devastates the historic Mulehall towpath, what's left of it, through Connecticut. Any of the other designs that have been under consideration are not much better. The destruction of the thousands of trees that adjoining homeowners value for a minimum amount of privacy that will be eliminated is a sin to nature. And for what? From conversations with several people at Connecticut DOT, all implications are that their design for Alignment C will be on or next to the Mulehall towpath, just behind the houses on Hollyberry Lane and some others on Condale Lane and Redstone Hill. That's that phase one that talking about. That would be ridiculously too close to houses and outbuildings on its way south to Town Line Road from Norton Park. None of this should be allowed to happen, especially Norton Park. What an awful and negatively impacting way to screw up Plainville more. I highly recommend that the Plainville Town Council support historic preservation of the Mulehall towpath. Most of the towpath through Connecticut has been bulldozed into obliteration for development or otherwise. By preservation, I mean just leave it alone and keep the trail gap away from it. The entire trail gap through Plainville is a ridiculous folly anyway. No rail, no trail, and no thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak that has not done so? Yes.
Jessie Sally, 26 Ashford Road in Plainville. I actually just had a question about the video that Robert showed with the police officer listing fines. Is that a state law Plainville thing? Where did that come from? About the kids getting...
Are you talking about the vaping? The one regarding
the
vaping?
$50 and $100 fees.
I'm not sure about the... That came from the Board of Education?
I just want to state that I have a huge problem with that, even though my kids aren't in school anymore. I think that if we did something like a program where giving back to the community, volunteering in the community, I know if my kid was caught vaping, I couldn't afford $150 or $100 every time they did it. So I think that maybe the Board of Education should rethink that. That's a lot of money, especially for somebody who's a repeat offender. I mean, I know back in the day.
They shouldn't be doing it, right?
Right,
to begin
exactly.
with.
And, volunteering in the community and doing community service, at least it's coming from the kid and they're repaying it versus the parents paying the price for something the kid did. I'm just offering it as a suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you.
The Board of Education put that policy in at their school, Robert, regarding the fine?
That's my assumption. I'm hearing about it first.
Okay.
So, be addressed by the Board of Education.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily assume that the parents could pay for the fine. High school kid board.
One doesn't know. They shouldn't probably be vaping to begin with, right? I guess that's the message.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Robert, could you find out for us, does the same go for smoking? Because I would hate to think we're not punishing the smokers the same way. Thank you very much.
Good thought. Okay, does anybody else wish to speak that has not done so? Anybody else? Joanne?
Joanne Edmond, 166 West Main Street. As always, for Carol and the minutes of the record of the minutes, I strongly oppose Alignment C and any other alignment that would negatively impact Perron Road, Pierce Street, Broad Street, Hemingway Street, into the park, and of course, the Mule Hall Trail. I would say, can this project, dump it, whatever. Plainville doesn't need it. They're getting through town just fine. You got the roads all marked. They're just waiting for the hikers and bikers to come out this spring. You know they'll be out. And they have their little roads, and they're wherever, on Route 10 and wherever. But through the woods and cutting down thousands of trees and disrupting and the idea of building this trail is invasive and intrusive. And I don't like it. And a lot of people do not like it. So now on to budget time in the Rockies. I mean, Plainville, River City. How much are you going to raise those taxes for the Plainville people? The good old citizens that get socked to it. What?
Council has not gotten it yet, the budget.
No.
We have not started to work on it yet.
But you know what? I've read and heard rumors that the revenues, the assessments are up, something like $4 million? Did I hear that tonight? And how about using that money instead of raising raising the budget another $1 million, $2 million? Oh, it's not $1 million anymore. It's $2 million, $3 million. You've got $62 million already to run this 9.5 square mile town. And I think that's awful. It's a lot of money. And I agree with John's idea that the Board of Ed is entirely too strong in this town. And I don't like that either, because it costs us a lot of money. A lot of money. And another thing that bothers me is what's going to happen when that crumb rubber crap football field, needs a new surface. Now what are you going to do? Where is the crumb rubber crap going to go? And who's going to pay for the new deposit of crumb rubber crap? Do you know? They will never have enough money. What?
I think your time's up.
John, I can determine what.
Yeah, well, come on.
Oh, come on, John.
Hello?
Come on.
Your time's up.
I know the time is up.
Okay, thank you.
I'm through.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak that has not done so? Anybody else? I'm going to close it off if we're all done. All right, thank you for your comments. I will close this portion of the meeting. Moving on. Okay, we do not have any old business to transact, so we will move on to our new business portion of the meeting.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion to establish a public hearing regarding the town manager's fiscal year 2021 proposed budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 2.
Madam Chair, motion to set special meetings regarding town council fiscal year 2021 proposed budget.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Maybe just point out that we're looking at March 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Correct.
Municipal Center at 6:30 p.m.
Is everybody okay with that? Does everybody check those dates with your calendars, and you're all right with this? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
The only conflict I have right now would be the 19th.
Oh, and that's at the end, so we may not get there yet.
That's what
Okay.
I'm not worried about right
Sure. Okay. All right, any other comments regarding the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion to disband the Facilities Study Committee.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion to accept the revised addendum on the tax refunds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any additions or corrections to that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Are there any other items that we need to add or delete? All set?
No.
Okay, for now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have any other discussions of interest this evening?
I do not, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I do have a matter of interest for discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the beginning of January, we had a workshop with the fire department regarding the lack of coverage during daytime hours due to the fact that we have a volunteer force department and most of them do not work in town. And at that time, we discussed the potential of adding a part-time drivers to the fire department to help us get trucks to scenes quicker than we are now. At that time, we were looking at 40 hours a week split between two and four potential part-time firefighters. And we haven't had any discussion on it following up. I know there is some money in their budget this year to offset the opportunity to potentially bring people like this on here in the fourth quarter. And I'd like to just see where everybody stands with that and see if this is something we want to try and move forward with in preparation for next year's budget as well. I think it's a good idea personally, being that I know that we do have a hard time getting those trucks out simply because, a lot of times the closest first responders to the fire department, other than the fire marshal, would be, for example, one of the chiefs works 40 minutes away. This isn't the 1980s anymore where Marlin Rockwell or GE would clear out when there was a fire alarm. So I'd just like to get that out there for discussion and see where we stand with the potential of adding these part-time drivers.
Well, I completely understand the situation it's been coming along for quite a while, and I understand that, and I understand the need for enhanced coverage, particularly during the daytime. And our job as the town council is to make sure our public safety functions are met responsibly. Public safety being police and fire. So I'm happy to talk about it. I don't know how quickly we can get this done, and I'd like to hear from our other counselors if they think this is something we should put in. It's not quite mid-budget, but we're not quite through the year yet either. So, any
Madam
opinions?
Chair?
Oh, Robert, do you have something to add?
Just to put something in perspective, I think the yearly cost that the fire department has presented to me as far as next year's budget is concerned is somewhere around $41,000, which I will be including in my recommendation to the council, which will be presented on March 2nd. While the fire department does not have money specifically budgeted for that purpose this year, we do anticipate that there will be savings of approximately $10,000 in their stipend account, which could be used to fund a, to get, to do put some of this in place, in the fourth quarter. Realistically, if the council said, let's authorize the town with the fire department to advertise to fill a position, we probably wouldn't have some, if we were able to get some people to apply, we probably wouldn't have them in place till probably the fourth quarter, and I'm not sure we'd be, we'd be able to get, perhaps not even a full, 40-hour coverage, but, it would allow us to begin to ramp up, and there are some dollars available. So I just wanted to put at least that in perspective in terms of cost. If the council, if you're of a mind to say, well, we most likely will include this in next year's budget, and by the way, if we want to get a head start on it, we can begin to ramp up at the end of this year. I believe there are some sufficient funds to do that. So just wanted to set that table for you.
Thank you. Thoughts?
Madam Chair, yeah, I'm in favor, of at least including it in next year's budget. I do think it's something we have to address, and I would be open to even this year, and I know there's some logistics I think we still have to figure out here, but, based on what the town manager said, I would like to move forward even this year, this fiscal year, trying to see if we can have get something in place, even if it's not the full 40 hours. I think we have an opportunity to at least fill some of that void before we get to next fiscal year. So I'd like to see us move forward with this.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm in agreement with Councilman Wazorko. I think we've seen the numbers drop on the fire department, and we know that daytime coverage is difficult. So I'm in favor of adding it to next year's budget. And I don't know if he'd be able to get anybody this year, how many hours or whatever,
Okay.
but look into it.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I would certainly be supportive of it. I think the issue of the numbers that are available during the day, it could be a real critical issue at some point, and we want to be ready for that. So if there is, and it sounds like there is going to be some sort of possibility for offering some coverage by the fourth quarter of the year, then I would certainly be supportive of it.
Okay.
Also, Madam Chair, just a reminder, we accepted the resignation of 3 firemen today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we in agreement that we can try to get something going at least by the fourth quarter? In the fourth quarter, is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
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 Mm-hmm. Okay.
We'll work with the fire chief officers to develop some advertising and look for some applicants and see where it goes.
Okay.
All right. thank you.
Does that have to be approved by the council? That's a hired position. It's not a volunteer. So how does that work? Does it go through
It would go through my office. It's
your
not-
office?
yeah.
Okay, as any other hire.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
The
Thank
plan
you very much.
The plan is at some point in time they would become Plainville firefighters. Well, no, they couldn't be. They couldn't volunteer and serve. So sorry, I take that back. So yeah, it would just be simply a part-time position within the town, which would be outside the purview of the council.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure, you're welcome. If there are no other items, we will move into item number it's not 13, item for appropriate for executive session. Can I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Motion to move into executive session for a personnel matter?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We do
Okay.
anticipate that there may be some action being taken by the council when they come out of executive session with respect to the potential appointment of the fire marshal.
Okay. So noted. Everybody knows we may come back to do something. Great. Okay. Thank you very much.